Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 284 of the RRBG podcast. This episode is also brought to you by Killcliff. My friends over at Killcliff make the best energy drink you can buy in the market today. Clean energy, none of that crap that they put in Monster or any of those Red Bulls. No sugar, just clean power for all the grind you're going to have to put in today. And if you're not grinding today and you just want to relax, they also have CBD drinks to help you recover from any injuries you may have, any kind of inflammation. Maybe you went a little too hard at the gym. CBD drink will get you right back on track. Go to their website, killcliff.com. Check out all their different flavors. My personal favorite Ignite drink is the Cherry Limeade. And in the CBD category, you have to try the Joe Rogan Special. It's the Flaming Joe Pineapple with Jalapeno. It's not that spicy. You just get a little bit of a kick at the end. It's delicious. Go to killcliff.com and tell them that RRBG sent you. This episode is also brought to you by our good friends at Saints Joints. Go to saintsjoints.com to check out all the options that they have. They have these amazing packages with pre-roll joints, which will have pre-rolls from either side of the strain spectrum, either indica or sativa, and they even have multi-strain collections. Pick up one of their amazing Book of Saints. They currently have 2 volumes, volume 2 being a special Halloween edition. It looks like the Necronomicon. It's amazing. They're currently available in Washington and Oregon and will soon be available in California. Go to saintsjoints.com and tell them that RRBG sent you. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Thunderking Coffee. Thunderking provides organic, air-roasted coffee straight out of Costa Mesa, California. It's seriously some of the best coffee I've ever had. My personal favorite is the Positive Morning Attitude. I order 2 pounds of this almost every 2 weeks because I just can't get enough. But they also have bottled cold brew. They have their special California Christmas peppermint cold brew out right now. You can order it from their website. So go to thunderkingcoffee.com and check it out. Support small, independent businesses, people. In this episode, I talked to Jesse Hubbard. He is the author of the book Punk Rock and Cocktails, where he pairs 20 albums with 20 handcrafted cocktails, where he came up with a recipe on his own. He's also the founder of St. Russell's Productions. We talked about his book. We talked about his love for punk rock. We talked about his love for craft cocktails. We talked about mental health. We talked about pro wrestling. It was a great conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure to follow him at Jesse Hubbard Cocktails on Instagram. Pick up his book at saintsrussellproductions.com. The link is in his IG if you need it. Click subscribe and follow and notifications on YouTube for us if you want to get notifications on our new episodes. And follow us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/RRBG and support the podcast. Get yourself some exclusive content while you're there. Cheers. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the RRBG podcast. I am being joined today by my friend Jesse Hubbard. How are you, brother?
Good, man. Good. I'm excited to chat with you today. I know we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about.
Yeah. I'm sorry that, we had some complications trying to get this done earlier. We hung out and met at Jesse's thing, Stoke the Fire live in New York.
Yeah. That was such a great event, and being able to just spend some time and get to know folks like yourself and, and Aid and Chris Stewart and so many other amazing people there. It was just, it was a wonderful evening. And, I'm very grateful for it, man.
Hell yeah, man. I had a blast. I'm super grateful to Jesse and Matt for inviting me out there to be a part of that thing. And you were there selling your book. You're the author of Punk Rock and Cocktails. And you also made some specialty cocktails for the night, which were pretty awesome. I had them both.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so Punk Rock and Cocktails, I'll let everybody try to guess what it's about.
It's about pro wrestling, right? Yes.
Right. So it was really cool, and gotten to know Matt and Jesse, and they're very generous with their platform. So it's great to get to know those guys for sure.
Hell yeah, man. So punk rock and cocktails, before we talk about everything else, when I think punk rock, a lot of times my brain associates it with straight edge. Like I think of straight edge, and I know I might be off, a little bit. That's more hardcore, I guess, but that's just where my brain goes. So how did you come about piecing those two together, those two worlds?
It all started with my two passions, really. So I worked in radio for many years, and I'm a failed musician. I played in crappy punk bands, never really went anywhere with it. So, radio was my way to stay close to the music industry, and over the course of time, shifted more away from more into bartending and further away from the radio world, and I got really into craft cocktailing. So it was just a cool way to combine two of my passions, my interests that I've had all my life, and pay tribute to a lot of these bands that are very influential and important to me in a creative and unique way. And to your point, I have Minor Threat in my book. And I have some other, Henry Rollins is in there, and he doesn't drink. There's some other musicians that do not drink. So, it is not anything really more than just me paying tribute in a unique way, sharing some stories and why it's important that I mention these bands and these albums, really. And I'm all about doing a low-proof cocktail, a non-alcoholic cocktail. I think there's room for everybody to enjoy the craft cocktail experience without having to actually drink alcohol, honestly.
Yeah. I feel like that's something that's kind of missing from alcohol sales out in the markets. Like you see a lot of what they call RTDs, ready to drink cocktails now out and about, like Mai Tai in a can or Mule in a can, whatever it is. But I don't see a lot of like pre-mixed cocktails without the alcohol that you could just buy and then put your own alcohol later at home. There's the mixers that you see at like the margarita mix, but that shit's garbage. I want like a craft cocktail, like a fancy cocktail that I could just buy and then take home and pour my own booze in it. You know what I mean?
I do. I've seen some companies dabbling in that, but there's not really anybody that's come forward with a real alternative like what you just mentioned. So I think there's space there for that for sure.
Hell yeah, man. I'd love to see that, especially, for friends that don't drink. It's cool to kind of include them because, when you're out at a show, a punk show or a concert, everybody's kind of drinking unless you're sober. And then you kind of feel like the odd man out. Everybody's having a blast and you're drinking a water. You know what I mean? It'd be cool to have these cool, like, cocktails that are just alcohol free. Well,
the idea is, I think, and you see, there is a surge of bars doing this. At least I'm in Columbus, Ohio here, and there's some bars doing it here with a focus on the menu, or there's one that just opened up that is completely, a sober cocktail bar. So I think, the idea is to create these cocktails and have the same experience, quality ingredients, hit all of the senses, sight, taste, smell, and not have alcohol in it. So people that don't drink, whether they're sober or whether they're just not drinking that evening, they can be a part of the festivities and not feel like, I'm sitting here drinking my water and everybody knows that it's water. You know what I mean? And there's real opportunity there for sure.
That's cool. I didn't know they were already popping up places like that. That's really cool to hear.
Yeah, they're popping up. I think there's some staying power there. Because I know while I still do drink, I don't drink nearly as much as I used to when I was younger, and I know a lot of bartenders that stopped drinking altogether. So, it goes to show you don't have to indulge, let alone overindulge, to be a part of this world.
Absolutely. I mean, is that something that you're exploring? Is opening up a cocktail? I mean, do you have a cocktail bar of your own?
No, not yet. So I have a cocktail and events business called St. Russell Productions, where I go around and I do bar pop-ups. I do cocktail competitions, Midwest, East Coast, further down south. Haven't made it to the West yet, but that's on the list. So all of this is leading up to the idea of opening my own bar, but I really want to get this off the ground. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and then transition that over to having the working, operating bar with the event company coming out of that, part of the same umbrella, if it were. Yeah.
Okay. What's St. Russell? Why that?
So
why not like J. Hubbard production?
Yeah. So my father was somebody that was very important. He passed a couple years ago, and he's very, very important figure in my life. And he was a bartender way back in the day. He worked on the railroad, and he's from the East Coast. He's from Brooklyn originally. So the idea was kind of, after my dad passed, I wanted to pay tribute to him and really kind of organize everything that I was doing, my consulting, my pop-ups and everything, and put it under one name. My father is Russell. And to me, he was a saint. Others may have some stories to the contrary, but it was just a really cool way for me to pay tribute to my dad. And every time I'm out at these fun events, my dad was the life of the party. So Russell's still a part of everything that we do. You know what I mean? And that's special for me. And that's really cool.
That's awesome, man. I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Thanks, man.
So now, what would you say are some of your like signatures? Like anybody that buys the book, what's kind of like one of your signature punk rock cocktails that you would recommend anyone to check out?
I mean, that's a tough one because, I would say there's 20 albums, 20 cocktails, 20 stories, and each one of these are really kind of my babies, if you will. I spent a lot of time. I took it very seriously. I picked albums that are very important to me, and I wanted the bands who I reached out to and made sure that they were on board with me doing this. I wanted the bands to be like, all right, this is a cool drink. You know what I mean? So I really felt the pressure to deliver. I don't know if I could pick one or two. I'm very proud of all 20. I have a tendency, I think I'm kind of known for, bourbon and whiskey cocktails around, my city here. But there's a variety, all styles, every flavor profile. I've got booze forward, I got sippers, I got tropical, I got tiki, I got bitter, everything in there. So, I mean, I think what's important, for the reader to know is that from A to Z, like every one of these were something that I put a lot of time into. And I really break it down to where if you're a complete novice in the world of making cocktails, you can make these at home. I mean, that's the idea. I want, it's a coffee table book, it's like, the size of a record itself, right? So, I want people to gather around and have these social events, especially now that we're getting back to some form of normalcy. Put on one of these records. Maybe you discover a new band. Maybe you discover a new cocktail or a new spirit, and do it with friends. And that's kind of the idea. So I guess to get back to your original question, I can't pick just one because they're all special.
All right. Yeah. I mean, that's a good answer either way. I mean, if all 20 are special, then that's worth it. A lot of people don't realize that. Like, people might think when they see the book, like, he probably just got like an old fashioned and then just paired it with, a band. And it's like, no, you're creating these from scratch.
Yeah, they're all original recipes. I mean, at the end of the day, everything's based on a classic. No cocktail that exists is not rooted in something that has already existed. But they're all original recipes of mine, and I hope I've gotten good feedback, and I hope people continue to enjoy these at home. Yeah, for sure.
Now, I want to ask you some thought. I've had this thought in my brain, and it's what makes a tiki drink as opposed to like say, a cocktail with similar fruit and alcohol. Like, what makes it tiki? Is it just the mug?
Yeah, I mean, so, tiki gets thrown around so interchangeably, really. So what's ultimately the difference between tiki, beachy, summertime, tropical, or whatever? A lot of times with tiki drinks, not always, but, you're going to have an element of rum. You're going to have certain spices in there. Traditional juices that you're going to see in there, like coconut, pineapple, that kind of stuff, orgeat, which is an almond syrup. So those kind of island flavors really you see in tiki more than anything else. But, you caught me kind of, because I don't often use the term tiki. I usually say, summer cocktails, because, sometimes you can put other spirits in there. But for me, you go to a tiki bar and you're going to really get a variety of rums, and that they kind of go hand in hand, really. That's the main spirit that you're going to see in any tiki cocktail.
Yeah. I mean, I love tiki drinks, by the way. It's one of my favorite things to do is to go to a tiki bar, get their signature mug or whatever they got. I've got about 8 tiki mugs. I don't want to get any further because I get really obsessive. Like we started, those Funko Pops right up here.
Bro, you can't. I got a couple behind me.
Yeah, you got right there.
What you don't see is I got a wall right here.
yeah. Those things, man. Like, it was like, we'll get a couple. Oh, okay, this one's cool. Oh, okay. And then later, it's 200 later. And, I don't want 200 tiki mugs. I already have 200 pops, fucking 400 records. Like, I got to stop. So.
It's without a doubt, it's something that, I'm a collector too. And you really kind of. It's easy to just get carried away. I mean, I got records, pop vinyl, bourbon. It just my wife is like, where does it end? Like,
yeah. And you're in an okay state for that. Like, I'm in California, so if the big one hits, like, what am I going to do with all this shit? I can't carry all this out of my apartment, you know?
You're gonna have to find the favorites and just
God, man, yeah, I got to figure out a box I can just toss my favorites into. But so I guess like you know, I was looking for like if there's a specific thing that has to go into tiki drinks to make it tiki, but I guess it's just kind of the experience, right?
Really the experience, you know, rum forward, the tiki mugs, in which a fun fact. Most tiki drinks look like a mud puddle when you put all that stuff together. That's why the majority of tiki mugs are not clear.
That makes sense. They
taste delicious, but they're not very pretty to look at, aesthetically speaking. So, but yeah, that's usually those are some of the defining characteristics of what makes a tiki. But in this day and age, everything's open for interpretation, and something can lean the tiki direction without being, you know, a purist's definition of what it is. But you know, I'm not all about that gatekeeping.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a couple people out there in their Hawaiian shirts that are like, well, actually,
yeah, right. Whenever somebody sits down at your bar and they're like, they just want to prove to you like that they know more than you do about something, and I'm like, okay.
Are you using regular white rum and not rum agricole? What's wrong with you?
Right.
Yeah, by the way, I'm directly making fun of Dana Snyder, my homie, Master Shake from Aqua Teen. He's a big tiki head and taught me all about. A lot
of people are these days.
Yeah, he taught me all about rum agricole. I had no idea. It's actually so. What's funny is I had never heard of it until he showed it to me, and then I went and I bought a bottle. And there's a Cuban sugarcane drink called guarapo. I don't know if you've ever had that. It's basically just squeezed, you know, the juice that comes out of a sugarcane when you squeeze it. And that's what this thing tastes like. The rum agricole. It comes straight from sugarcane, and it's vastly different than regular rum because it tastes kind of grassy a little bit, you know?
Yeah, it's quite nice. I played around with it a little bit. I don't have anything with that necessarily.
It feels overpowering sometimes. Like I tried to make some mix drinks with it, and that's all I taste no matter what is the sugarcane.
Yeah.
Another bartendery, cocktaily kind of question that I had, like, what are your thoughts on the bartenders that do all the crazy bullshit, like with the spinning and the putting it in their back of their head? Like, is that I mean, I guess it's more for showing, but I feel like I just want to drink. I don't need the show. It's not Benihana, for fuck's sake.
Right. I mean, you know, there seems to be a market for that. That's not really my cup of tea. When I go out to a bar, I don't personally care if the bartender can balance a bunch of shit on their arm and spin it behind their head. How good's the cocktail? You know what I mean? So there is a market for that, and if people enjoy it, more power to them. I always say, you know, like what you like, and that's cool in any capacity. But if somebody said, hey, there's this new Flair bar in town, we got to go check it out, that wouldn't really appeal to me. You know, if somebody
happens, is that what it's called? Flair
bartending. Yeah. All this kind of stuff. Ugh. You know, I played around with it a little bit when I first started getting into bartending and realized very quickly, A, it's hard. It's not easy to do. And B, you know, there's not a super high demand for that in the Midwest or the East Coast where I've worked, at least, you know, so like Vegas is like Miami, those kind of places are really like the hotbeds for it. But I don't know. It's not my thing for sure.
I'm the same way. I'll do it once for the experience, you know, like Benihana. Like I love the food at Benihana or in Florida we had Samurai, which was basically the same idea, to cook in front of you or whatever. Yeah. And in New Jersey there's one called Mount Fuji. But like I like the food, and some days I just want to get the food and not the whole goddamn show, you know.
Yeah. You ever see the videos online about the guy with the ice cream, and he keeps like giving it to the kid and pulling it away?
I would punch that guy in the mouth if he did that to me. Like, oops.
Gives me anxiety just watching it.
Oh man, now it's in my other hand. Like, gave me my goddamn ice cream.
What ice cream, bro? Just wanted ice cream.
So let's shift over to punk rock a little bit. What was like the first punk rock band you heard?
The first one that ever got my attention was I was 13 in '94. And that's what they say, the summer punk broke, right? You know? So The Offspring just came out with Smash, Green Day came out with Dookie, and those albums blew my 13-year-old mind. At that point in my life, I was listening to, you know, what all the kids in school listen to, like the hip hop, Tupac and Dre and Snoop, which I still appreciate, don't get me wrong, but that changed my life. And so like I heard Smash. and Bad Habit was the first song that I heard. I'm just like, oh man, what is this with all this profanity and road rage? This is amazing. And from there, I started discovering their influences, and I went back and I discovered all the classics, the Clash and Iggy Pop and the Ramones and Agent Orange and all these amazing bands. And then I really started. It's funny, I'm born in New Jersey, but I really gravitated to the West Coast, Southern California punk sound. Rancid, Pennywise, Bad Religion, NoFX. To this day, those probably my favorite style of punk. I just love the gang vocals and the bass intros and all that kind of stuff. I just really, really dig it. And but yeah, it was kind of probably the Offspring and Green Day, at 13 years old. And then, I was always aware of the Misfits, but then I really went back and kind of discovered them. I saw like the older kids in school wearing the T-shirts and all that. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. And then I put them on and it sounded nothing like I imagined, way more melodic. And I thought it was going to be like some like death metal satanic shit or something, judging by the shirts. And so, but I really got into them and the Bouncing Souls and all these, other bands that were just to this day, some of my absolute favorites. And then, you go to like New York hardcore and DC hardcore and I'm go on and on forever, but it started with Smash, which is to this day, they may or may not be considered a punk band anymore, but that album changed my life. And it's been something that's, punk rock has been, at the core of who I am and shaped who I am as a person over the years. So it's been, it's a special album to this day.
That's awesome. Okay. I was trying to do the math. So 93, 94, you were 13. So what, 80, 81? When were you born?
81, yeah.
What month?
July.
Okay. Shit. I'm a November 81 baby from New Jersey as well.
Now, where were you born in Jersey?
Jersey City, Christ Hospital.
Right on. I was born in Princeton.
Ah, nice. Yeah, I was in the hood. I was the lightest skinned boy, and I'm not white. I'm still, and I was still the lightest skinned boy in the little room where they put all the babies, Yeah.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I didn't say that we lived in Princeton or that I went to Princeton. I was just born in Princeton. So don't get it twisted.
Yeah, that's fine. You got royalty in your blood. It's fine. No, I'm just kidding. But that's great. Yeah, I'm the same way too, man. I'm from New Jersey, but I kind of gravitated towards the West Coast punk and West Coast hip hop too. I was more into Tupac and Biggie than I was, Jay-Z and I don't know who else is out there.
It's just funny because like I still have a love for hip hop, especially a lot of the guys, from the 90s really. But, I was just listening to what I thought was cool and what the other kids were doing. With punk, that was the first time in my life that I chose something because it's what I wanted to listen to. You know what I mean? And it really wasn't cool, at that particular time in my school. Yeah. Kids weren't like, oh wow, that's so cool. You listen to punk rock. If anything, I was like, I was an athlete and I was like the weird kid that was like, I played basketball and ran track, but also like hung out with all the punk rockers and stuff. I tried to get along with everybody, but I never fully felt like, I was accepted by everybody because I had these different interests. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying. I'm that way as well, dude. I'm the same way. I was in the gym class wrestling the school wrestlers, not joining the team because that was the punk rock side of me. I was like, fuck your school spirit. I want to just beat the shit out of your dudes, So I would show up to wrestling class, hang out with the jocks and the cheerleaders, but then I would also go play Magic the Gathering at the library with some of the nerds and then I'd also go hang out with the punk rockers. And I'm the same way, dude. The same, like, I don't fit in anywhere, but also I fit in with everyone if I wanted to, if I put enough effort.
Yeah. I just think that shows your individuality. You know what I mean? And it's hard to see that when you're a kid. Mm-hmm. But when you get older, you realize it's an attribute to be able to get along with multiple people from different backgrounds and not feel like you have to subscribe to this programming of I have to be this or I have to be that, But you don't know it when you're a kid. You're like, I just doing you, and you're all worried about being accepted and all that kind of nonsense,
Well, yeah, and I feel like that's still kind of ringing true today with the world that we're living in. Like, everybody's picking a team and fuck everything else. I'm on this team no matter what, and we need to have a little more understanding.
Yeah, you never fully get rid of it. I think it's part of the human element. I mean, to this day, you know, when I put something out there, there's a part of me like, man, like I hope people like this. You know, I hope they're into it. Something I work hard on.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, you know what? If somebody doesn't, so what? I like it and I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
So, but it's a battle, you know, and I'm sure, you know, I'm not sure, but I wonder if you can relate to that, because all these avenues that you're putting yourself out there and you're a very public figure yourself. So did you ever encounter that, you know?
100%. I mean, you know, on your bio, it says mental health advocate. Like I'm not an advocate, but I'm trying to be. Like as I get older, I'm discovering more and more of that, you know, the issues that I've, you know, just had to deal with through life, just having to, you know, oh man, I don't know, like, especially with my music, I was in a band for 10 years and I never felt comfortable showing it to anyone. You know, all the other band members are like, come to my car, check out the band. And they're playing it for people. And I'm just kind of like embarrassed. I'm like, no, they're going to hate it. They're going to hate my voice. And, you know, and I hate my voice. So I think that's where it comes from. So I hate my voice. And I decided to be in bands and podcasting.
Yeah. Power through, man. Don't let anybody stop you.
Oh man. But yeah, I 100% feel that, man. It's a weird battle. And I was having this conversation the other day with somebody about how it sounds very doom and gloom to say that it's never going to get better. But it's not like that. It's more that we're never going to be this utopia where everyone's happy and satisfied. That's not going to happen. You know, and some people are like, yeah, I will. I think with time, I'm like, never. That's never going to happen. As soon as we hit utopia, where everyone's on the same plane of happiness and understanding, one person's going to go, nah, let me fuck this up.
Yeah, they're going to be like, oh, I see you're all happy over there. Excuse me if I can ruin that real quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey, I don't want to be rude, but I'm going to be rude right now. You know? But I also think it's important. Like I believe a lot in the yin yang thing, the Buddhist mentality, where like we do need, or Jesse, like, you know, to go back to Jesse from a Kill Switch, like some of his lyrics, he points out like there is no darkness without light, and it goes vice versa. There's got to be something there to contrast to kind of motivate you to do something else.
Well,
you know?
I mean, and their lyrics speak to me, man, so much. And but you know, it's cliche, but it's true. Sometimes cliches are true. That's why you hear so many people saying them. In that the hard times really make you appreciate the good times. Mm-hmm. You know, if there was a time in my life, you know, whenever they were all bad times, you know what I mean? When I was younger, dealing with mental health and stuff, and every day was a struggle. And then whenever I was finally able to like be a kid again, you know, and be normal, whatever that means, I really appreciated it, you know, and like, wow, this is great. I'm never carefree because that's just not how my mind works. But, you know, it ebb and flows. There's ups and downs, you know. And so if everything was just perfect all the time, then you're just like a freaking Kardashian or some shit. You're out of touch with reality, you know, just such a grand life that you don't have to ever worry about anything, you know. But not to say that they don't, but you get my point.
Yeah. That's how you get douchebags. I mean, we see them all over the place. That's never had a struggle in his life, or her life, never had to pay a bill, never had to get a job, never, you know, parents are together and happy and everything's great and blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's cool and all, but that's how you get an entitled douchebag in the world.
Yeah, it's very true. Like everything's always been great for you and handed to you, you know. I want to see everybody happy, but I want to see them appreciative of their happiness.
Yeah, work for it a little bit, you know. Yeah. You don't need to like continuously smash your head against the wall, but put some work in, and then the rewards are great, you know. And that's where I feel that's what's helped me out, being able, like, I look back sometimes. I have conversations with folks like, my past sucked, but because it sucked so much, my present day is pretty cool. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. You know, it really makes you grateful. You know, like I struggled, you know, with different things when I was younger, you know, and like I'm married to a wonderful wife who is my biggest supporter, love of my life. We have a beautiful house, you know, and 3 dogs that we love, and a great family on both sides. You know, at the end of the day, everything else is just like noise ultimately. And I'm very grateful for what I have now. And there was a time in my life when I didn't know if any of that was ever going to happen. You know what I mean? So the struggles sucked, but here I am, I'm 40. I feel that I'm stronger than I used to be with all this stuff, and I'm in a pretty good place, and it's not lost on me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And, and for people that are watching and listening that do struggle with mental health, it's better for me. I'm speaking for myself. It's better. My life is better now, but the struggle's still there every day. That never goes away. So don't think that, don't feel despair if, like, for some reason things go well and then the next day you wake up and you're dealing with a problem. Like, it's never going to go away. We just got to learn. We just got to pick our battles and learn how to maneuver that, because some days I wake up, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get out of bed, especially days where, tragedies happen. You look online and you see all this bullshit that's happening and then you don't want to get out of bed. But you have to. You have to. Like, otherwise you're giving up the fight and you're letting them win, whoever they are, No,
I mean, yeah, well, whoever they are, they're out there, but, and then that's something that the two things I feel like that you and I really kind of bonded over when we were hanging out in New York was, mental health and wrestling. And you know what I mean? But
we'll get to that. Don't worry.
We'll get to that. But what I'm getting at is, a big part of the Stoke the Fire live event was talking about mental health. And it's important to remember, no matter how much you're struggling, and I had to remind myself of this, you are not alone. You are not alone. And it is a beautiful thing to be able to talk to people, whether you know them very well or don't know them very well at all, to be honest and candid about your struggles. And you will realize how many people share similar struggles that you have went through. And there's strength in that, and it's not misery loves company. It's strength in numbers, I think, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially some of the folks, obviously everyday folks deal with it, but like you'd be surprised how many of your favorite musicians or artists or wrestlers deal with mental health on a daily basis. Just because they are successful doesn't mean that the struggle's over. You know what I mean? It actually sometimes for some people it gets worse. The fame and the, like that's one example I use often when people talk about mental health. It's like you look at Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, and he took his life because of depression and anxiety and whatnot. And people are like, how could he? He had everything. He was on top of the world. I'm like, it's such a struggle, dude. It's such a struggle to when you wake. So everybody, when they wake up, they check their phone, they see that somebody liked their post, and it gives them a little jolt of happiness. And then when they don't get any likes, they get depressed, like, oh man, nobody liked my post. Imagine having every night for 2-3 months, whatever your tour is, every night, thousands of people cheering your name and singing your lyrics back at you. The withdrawal of that dopamine hit from that is so big that people can't even handle it. Like when you're home and there aren't crowds of people cheering, and I know that sounds like whatever, big time, was it first world problems? But when you don't have that dopamine shot of the fans and everybody hitting you and you're home alone, you start to question everything. Like, what am I doing? Why am I not out there? Do people like me anymore? Like, oh, and you get in this like spiral and you spiral out of control.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what that's like. And it's so interesting that you mentioned Chester, because I was just talking yesterday to a friend about him and how you mental health and mental illness has no face. There was that famous video of him just like within a week of him taking his own life, of him just happy at a birthday party or something like that. He had just sang, what was it, the year before, I think, at Chris Cornell's funeral.
Yep.
And and so there's all these things, these different things in life where it's just you don't know when somebody's struggling. You can't tell just because they're happy or they're rich or famous. I mean, there's a whole new level of struggle that comes with that, I would imagine, not knowing who your real friends are, not knowing who really likes you for who you are, who's using you. You know what I mean? And so I can't even imagine what that's like. So I think, to your point, somebody may say, oh, it's such a terrible problem that I have fans cheering your name, but that admiration and then going home. And if you have self-doubt and anxiety, you wait a few years before you put out another album. Do people still care? Do they still like me? Will they come to the show? All this. So there's so many things that could happen there. And, it doesn't matter where you are in life. They hit you just the same.
Yeah. And another point that I want to bring up that for mental health that I think is important too is like, be kind, because even just one word, one little phrase that you tell someone, that can be the thing. You know, like Chester, for example, this is not what happened, but just as an example, because I've dealt with it myself in a smaller volume, of course. But you could have thousands of people cheering your name, and then you go home and one person says some bullshit, and that's it. Like, you're going to spend the rest of the night and perhaps a week thinking about that. Like, oh, am I, as shitty as they said, or am I doing it wrong? Why did they say that? Why would they? And then you just kind of, if you don't have the right tools to kind of navigate away from that, you might just fall into a spiral thinking about that. So to be nice, don't say bullshit, don't troll people. I'm okay. I hang out at the Comedy Store 2 to 3 times a week, and I see roast battles, and people are always roasting each other. And in wrestling, there's ribbing. Everybody ribs each other. That's fine if you know the person and you're friends and you're kind of just joking around. But if you're just being a jerk or an asshole for no reason, just because you're used to doing it on Twitter and you think you could do it in real life, like, don't do it. Don't do it, because you never know. It may not result in a fight with that person on the spot, but that person might go home later and you just like put them down a very bad path,
Yeah, it's just such a simple thing, kindness. But
common sense, right? Don't be a dick.
Yeah, but it goes such a long way, man. It's really, it's interesting because it's a form of camaraderie amongst friends, busting balls, you know what I mean, or having fun, and there's a space of trust still amongst that, whether it be a roast battle or whatever, or you're just having fun, busting chops and everything. So like there's trust, within that. If a stranger just comes up and says something like shitty to you, or whatever, somebody says something shitty online, it's like, all right, okay, that sucks. Like, that's a little different, that's a little different for sure.
Yeah. The only world where that is somewhat acceptable is pro wrestling. Yeah. Where if you're a heel, you want people to talk shit because that means you're doing your job right.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
Speaking of pro wrestling, let's get into it. I know you're a big CM Punk fan. How sad are you that he hurt himself?
Super bummed. I'm super bummed. Although I feel a little bit better about all the recent botches. Matches. So like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I was there for that. What was it? The match with the FTR. He botched like 4 spots back to back. I was like, eee.
It was rough. It was rough. And it happens. Everybody has botches, but there was a lot. Like when he, when he was fighting Hangman, and he botched
two of the buckshot lariats
twice. Just like fell. I didn't know if is this real or is he selling this? I don't know what's going on. They're like, okay, it was real. And then, and then the 6-man tag, with the trios match, rather with FTR, just didn't look good. And it was a little concerning, because I am a big fan. And it was bumming me out because, I get on Reddit and always read about, post Dynamite, post Rampage, post pay-per-view stuff or whatever.
You can't do that.
People were terrified. I know. It was rough to see. So I'm super bummed that he is hurt, though. I will say this: I don't like the interim championship thing that they do at AEW. I would rather him just relinquish the title. That way, when he comes back, he can win it again, and he's 2-time champion. It looks good on his bio, Yeah. And let somebody else run with it. The whole interim thing, I think, takes away the shine from whoever steps into that spotlight. And so I don't know. I love the EW. It's definitely my preferred federation these days, but some stuff just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up.
Well, I agree with you. I do love AEW. I'm a big fan. I was at Dynamite and Rampage. I got to see that MJF pipe bomb.
I know, dude.
Pipe bomb.
Yeah. It's real, though. They removed him from the website. It's real.
Oh, yeah. It's so real. I mean, guys, come on. And in person, it was worse because Punk came out and did the John Cena spot from when Punk did his pipe bomb. I saw that.
Somebody had footage online about that.
That's what immediately I was like, oh, this is a fucking work. Everybody was, oh, no, it's real. I'm like, no, first of all, he wouldn't have gotten to say, "You fucking Mark." He wouldn't have gotten to that point.
There's no way that. Yeah, I was talking to. She's gonna kill me. But I'll say this real quick. My wife, who has never watched wrestling day in her life, I took her to AEW in Cleveland and back in January, and now she watches everything with me every week. She loves it. She loves it. And so she was watching that, and she's like, "Do you think that was real?" I said, "Babe," because she never saw the pipe bomb or any of this stuff back in the day. I said, "If that was real." I said, "If they were really, still beefing like on the up and up, there's no way Tony Khan would have given him a live mic and that much TV time. There's no way that they would have cut it off immediately. They wouldn't have let him out there."
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, good for them for working that out. I mean, I don't know if 100% that's what's going on, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. Khan is a very smart Mark, as you want to call him. So he knows what sells. He knows that the dirt sheets are going to eat it up. He knows that immediately all the internet detectives are going to go on then like, "Oh, his merch is gone. Oh, it must be real." It's like, relax. Yeah. But going back to Punk, I agree with you. I don't like the interim thing too much. But there is just an air of chaos backstage at AEW that kind of reminds me of the WCW days.
See, I've heard rumors of that, but you've been there, so you're speaking firsthand.
Like, I don't want to give away anything, as I was very fortunate to go back there and hang out in the backstage, and all I will say is that there's a lot of people sitting around waiting. There's a lot of, and this is like common knowledge, there's a lot of talent and not enough TV time. So there's a lot of people sitting in the back waiting around, and there's a lot of people just kind of waiting for like, "Hey, you're up." And it's like, "Oh shit, okay." And they just got to get together and with their opponent and put it together. There's some storylines that are kind of, planned out better and whatnot. But for the most part, when you see like random things like, "Oh, here's Trent Beretta with, random team that it's not the best friends or whatever." Like, that's kind of just like, "Hey, we got nothing. Put them together. Let's send them out there. Let's see what happens." So there is a little bit of chaos going on that I'm hoping for the best. That's all I'm doing. Yeah, I already saw all of this through WCW days.
I know, man. I know. And, it's, I'm not privy to some of this stuff like you are, but we talk, and I read stuff online or whatever. So you always wonder about that. I love Tony Khan. I think what he's doing is a beautiful thing. I'm very grateful because I hadn't really watched wrestling in quite a while because I was so fed up with WWE, honestly. I hear a lot of people say it. I'm one of these people. AEW got me back into watching wrestling regularly. I would only watch WWE for special things because I just couldn't get into the same thing over and over and over again. And just like, and I don't like the production and everything. It just looks like some sort of like overproduced music video. Anyway, so I'm very appreciative of Tony Khan. But there's some questionable things. I don't know why he makes some of the decisions that he makes. I think maybe he sprayed himself a little too thin, and he needs more help, people that he can trust to really rely on. But I do think that he listens to the fans, and then he will correct something if he feels that he doesn't see it through all the way. I'm like, like Vince McMahon, like I'm stubborn about this, and I'm going to make this
right.
Yeah,
which
I love about.
Yeah, we got to give props for that.
Yeah, right. I love that about him. But I think that he, and I'll sum this up by saying, less signings, more showcases for the signings that you have, whether that's an extra, maybe, I don't know, an extra hour of TV time, an extra hour for Rampage, something, I don't know. But with Ring of Honor and New Japan and the already bloated roster he's got, there's too much going on. And you can't, like you said, Trent Beretta's awesome. How is he not getting TV time every week? How has he not had, like a title yet? Same thing, Ricky Starks and all these guys. There's so many guys that I love, and it's like, I'm just, I'll stop.
Yeah, but it is a problem, because like you said, there's just too many signings. Like Trent, and this is not because I became friends with Trent over the week that they were in town. He's a great dude. But I tell people all the time, like, that guy went 60 minutes with Kenny Omega, right? In Japan. Like, you don't even know what the talent level this dude's at. But it's just too much. Maybe if they did a Ring of Honor TV show that'll give us more airtime, to give some talent more time to be on TV.
Maybe, yeah.
And then it became kind of like a habit for them to be like, oh, this week, who's coming out this week? Who's the surprise this week?
No.
Every week is
like,
someone new.
No more. No more. Tony.
Yeah. It's too many. It's too many. I love the fact that they're mixing it up with New Japan for a pay-per-view. That's great. But having them on weekly TV, taking up time I know you got to build up to the pay-per-view, but I feel like you got so much. You got so many people back there that are kind of frustrated. I don't know. There's enough talent for there to be a very prominent third company. Like there's GCW kind of does it. New Japan really is trying, but they're kind of stumbling there with their American show, this New Japan Strong. People aren't really picking up on it as much. Maybe if they up production, I don't know. But maybe, I think we have enough talent for a third show.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
AEW has too much talent. And there are people that, it just I love the idea of a Ring of Honor show. That being said, I'll never be mad about Samoa Joe being on AEW.
Sure.
That's awesome. That's rad. But, they need to do something, and I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I just know that it's a little bit too much of that, like you said, that WCW feel of people who are ready, seemingly ready, but not getting the TV time and not getting that push. And I don't know. There's going to be a lot of disgruntled employees there if they don't fix this soon.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the problem. I would say, if there is a problem with AEW, is that the people are starting to get pissed. Like this whole thing with MJF, the pipe bomb thing. I'm sure it started in reality. I'm sure it was a problem. I would be pissed if I was MJF and I'm getting minimum wage and in comes this new guy who just making 3 times as much as I'm making. I've been there doing the work. You know what I mean? Like if you put it in the perspective of any job, you would get pissed too. I agree with that. I'm a little torn, and what I mean by that is, MJF signed a contract when he wasn't MJF. You know what I'm saying? And through his work, he has made himself one of the top heels in the business. Somebody coming in that's already at that marquee level, they're automatically going to get that new contract, I think. So, MJF, yes, it's frustrating, but it's like I'm a big basketball fan, right? They sign somebody to the rookie minimum, they have a breakout year, they're still under the contract, so he'll get paid, and my understanding is Tony's agreed to do that now if he signs a longer contract. So it's the rumors. So, I understand his frustration, but he wasn't a big star when he signed that contract. He was given an opportunity. So he'll get paid. I don't know. I see both sides of it. I see MJF's side, and I see Tony's side as well. So I think it's a legitimate gripe, but, that's kind of the business, right? Yeah, no, I feel you. I'm the same way, too. I'm a little torn by it because also if you put yourself in Daniel Bryan's shoes or Bryan Danielson, whatever he goes by these days, like that, if you put it into perspective of a regular job as well, like if you show up at a new company and you go, hey, I've been in this business for 20 years and I've been at the top of the business, you're not going to want minimum wage. You know what I mean? You're going to want that experience.
And that wouldn't be fair for MJF to get what Punk or Danielson gets. You know what I mean? Because they've been, like you said, they've been doing it for 20 plus years. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't envy anybody that's part of this situation.
Yeah, it's a pretty rough situation. I think hopefully we don't see a collapse like what happened with WCW, or some kind of, WWF trying to buy them or something, WWE. I don't know.
That'd be tough. That'd be heartbreaking for me.
Yeah, I mean, I still watch WWE. I have to because of the show and the Comedy Store Wrestling show, but it's rough. There's only a handful of things that are interesting. One of it being Cody Rhodes, who
he's the only reason I've been watching it lately.
Yeah,
I just want to say respect.
Yeah,
respect.
Yeah. Respect to the roller coaster. Is that what the MJF calls the roller coaster? Respect to him. I thought it was a work at first when he popped out with the jacket. I was like, that's paint. Yeah. There's no doctor that would clear that man to wrestle with that major injury. But then I spoke to some friends that are doctors and people that are in the industry, and they're like, well, it can't get any worse.
That's what they're saying. That's what I read about it. They're like, it was already completely tore from the bone, so you can't make it worse.
So if Cody's willing to put up with the pain, I mean, sure. And I'm sure Cody would be, because it's not only a way to build his character, but also a little bit of a middle finger to Punk. Like, oh, you're injured? But I'm injured too, but I wrestled.
Good point, man. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point. It's cool because that show that I was at for AEW in January was actually Cody's last match, is the ladder match against Sammy, his last match in AEW. We didn't know it at the time. And I was always like, whatever. I didn't care one way or the other about Cody Rhodes. I really became a fan of his whenever the whole crowd turned on him. I just loved the way he kind of played. I wish he would have turned heel, but I love the way he kind of played with it a little bit, and you never knew what he was going to do. So when he went to WWE, I bought the Peacock subscription. I started watching his matches since WrestleMania, and it's like, man, he's like, I'm a fan. I dig him, and I think when he comes back from this injury, straight to the top.
I hope so.
The pop he's going to get, they can set him up for maybe winning the Rumble, and I mean, it's WrestleMania moment,
They shouldn't keep him off TV, by the way. I feel like if he is injured and he's going to take time off, like, don't take time off. Show up in a suit, do commentary, because that is such a halt to your momentum if you just disappear for 6 months right now. I don't know, man.
Very good point.
You're going to have to start again, basically.
He's bigger than he's ever been.
Yeah, I've been following for a while now, thankfully. To me, I became a fan of Cody when he was in the Bullet Club. And I know that's a contentious thing to say because people don't like that era as much, but yeah. I was in, and I was into it. And not only that, but he made me an honorary Bullet Club member at the time. Last time they were in Ontario, California, they did this whole invasion angle where they were going to take over Raw. And I think I've told this story on the podcast before, so sorry if I'm boring you listeners, but yeah, I went out to Ontario, and it was Cody and the Bucks and Hangman, and they were doing like a signing at a Hot Topic beforehand, and the mall kicked them out because there's too many people in line for the signing. So the mall was like, you got to take this outside. You're disrupting business. And I was walking in just as they were getting kicked out. And Cody, like, I walked up and I'm standing in front of the whole group. I'm like, oh, shit. Hey, guys. And they're like, hey, you have a Bullet Club shirt? And I'm like, no, I don't. And I'm like, hold on. And they, like, grabbed one, gave it to me. It's like, put this on. And then I'm standing there. I put on the Bullet Club shirt. And they're like, come with us. We're walking outside. And I walk with the Bullet Club outside. And then Hangman hands me the flag. And I'm like, if you look at that episode of Being the Elite, I'm all over it because I'm standing right next to Nick and Matt Jackson. I'm standing next to Cody with his little megaphone. And for just out of sheer coincidence that I walked in at the correct time, right when they were getting kicked out. And they had no idea who I was, dude.
That's awesome.
So since then, I've been a fan of Cody. And, I've been a fan of the Bucks during that time as well, the Bullet Club time. So when AEW happened, it felt really good for me to be like, oh, it's cool to see these dudes that I know and have been a fan of kind of building their own thing. Because I did take a break from wrestling too. It was a little bit further back. I stopped watching WWE after Stone Cold retired. Right after that, I gave up. I didn't watch any of the Cena stuff or the Daniel Bryan stuff. Didn't watch the Shield stuff. Missed most of that. Yeah. So when people get excited, like, oh, the Shield, I'm like, man, whatever.
Right. I didn't care about Dean Ambrose until he was John Moxley.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay. I mean, he was cool, but like I just didn't watch. Like Mox, like, all right.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of dug the Ambrose when he went away from the Shield and he was just like a maniac and a wife beater and I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to say that anymore. Tank top.
I'm half Italian. I give you permission to call it a guinea tea if you want.
Ooh, okay. I'm not going to say that. Even though I grew up around Italians, I'm not. I'm not going to.
The whole Italian side of my family, we all call it a guinea tea. It's what it is.
Oh man, but yeah, dude. Either way, though, I think it's still a very exciting time to be a wrestling fan. Whether you took a break now is a good time to get back in. There's enough going on. Or if you're watching and you're just always been a fan, there's so much wrestling going on, and it's entertaining. And I'm glad that the stigma of being a wrestling fan is kind of going away, because a lot of people, give you shit. Like, what are you, dumb? It's fake. I'm like, yeah, I know. So is Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
There aren't dragons flying around, dummy.
It's like, you're the dumb one for thinking I think it's real. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course I know that they are planning it out. It's still exciting, if it's done well, obviously.
That's the thing about it is, somebody will come up and what you just said is brilliant. I couldn't agree more. The stigma is going away about being a pro wrestling fan. You nailed it. That's what it is. It's not, for the longest time, it was uncool to be a wrestling fan, and it's not anymore. But it's predetermined. The athleticism that these guys show, on a regular basis is outstanding, and so you can watch it from many different standpoints. You can get lost in it, and I'm enjoying this fight, and I'm watching the show, or I know that it's predetermined. Look at the way they're communicating and working together in the ring. You know what I mean? Look how he's selling those punches or selling those, whatever. You know what I mean? So you can enjoy it from different angles. So I think it's cool, and just to talk to different people and see how they view it and how they're looking at it and how they're enjoying it.
Yeah, you got to see it for the story that they're trying to tell. You know, it's an act, sure, but it's an act. So don't you like Broadway? Don't you like movies? Like, pay attention to how he's selling the injury. Is he doing it well? Do you believe that he's injured? Then that's good. That means they're doing a good job. Not only that, but just the stamina. Like, you see UFC fights, these dudes go 3 rounds, 5 minutes each. That's 15 minutes. I've seen Kenny Omega and Okada go 60 minutes. Yeah. I would be dead. Like, dead in the ground. Like, I would not come out of that match, so it's so respectable to see the stamina, the athleticism. And it's not just 60 minutes of them just poking around. It's jumping off the top rope, flying through a table, freaking, choking each other out. Like, even if it's not a real choke out, it still sucks to have a grown man grab your head and hold you in place for 20 minutes, putting his weight on you. Like, even though you're not choking or dying, he's not trying to kill you. It still sucks. It still really sucks.
Yeah, that's a good point. Some of this stuff still hurts.
Oh yeah,
because it's not real. There's an element of like, sometimes that still connects. Yeah. Sometimes you're going through a table that doesn't feel good no matter how you look at it.
If you're watching this and you think wrestling is fake, I have 2 matches for you. Do me that favor and watch them, and then you tell me how fake it is. Watch Walter versus Ilya Dragunov, or however you say his name, Dragunov? Ilya Dragunov. It's an NXT match. My wife left the room. She doesn't watch wrestling either, but she's been kind of dabbling in it with me every once in a while. And I showed her that match. Halfway through the match, she's like, "How can you watch this? It's so violent. That poor guy, like, he's getting chopped down, like, you could see the welts popping out of his chest." And she's like, "This is just grotesque. I can't watch this." So watch that one and tell me that's fake. Or watch Nakamura and Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom 9.
Okay.
That match, if you're a fan of WWE and you see Nakamura and you think the silly guy that does the hand stuff, watch Nakamura and Ibushi go at it, because that is the most violent match I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's more violent than an MMA match. Nakamura's kicking Ibushi in the mouth repeatedly, just bah, 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 like, not fake in any way. You could see Ibushi kind of get knocked out for a few seconds and then wake back up like, oh God, I'm still getting kicked. Like, it's nuts. So I'm sorry. Yes, the endings are predetermined. However, hitting the ropes sucks. People don't realize that. Just running to the ropes and bouncing off of it, if you've never done that shit sucks. It's like getting whipped.
And it's so awkward, too.
Oh, yeah. Unless you get the technique down where you put your arm back, you're hurting yourself. Slamming on the ground sucks. Even if you put you learn how to take a fall and you put your elbows back and, you land on your shoulders and elbows, that still sucks. I'm sorry. It's not easy. So
I've been chopped one time by a professional wrestler. There's the honky tonk man in a hurling. So I asked him, he offered, I said I could do it. And yeah, like it hurt like hell.
Yeah.
Tito Santana was there and he was like, geez, that was a little hard.
Some of these old cats like to lay it in for sure.
They took a liberty with that one for sure.
I didn't meet him, but I saw him at this past the AEW week. I went to a fan fest after all of it, and he was there. But dude, it made me so sad. It was him and Greg the Hammer Valentine sitting next to each other, and there's like a massive line of like 100 people for Adam Cole or the Lucha Bros, not the Lucha Bros, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. All these people had massive lines, and then you just see Honky Tonk and Greg the Hammer Valentine in the corner, like alone. I'm like, oh,
yeah, it's sad. You know, like I would personally still get in line to spend some time with the Honky Tonk Man. You know, I thought he was hilarious. But Greg the Hammer, like, great wrestler, but I'm not surprised. You know, sadly, because they're just. He always seemed very. I've heard the rumors that he's kind of curmudgeon-y, like for years and years now, and he's not really known by the newer generation. And there's not a personality and a shtick there, you know. So it's just that's a tough one, you know. And you got some of these guys that just don't really have the personality. Honky is just a cool guy to spend time with, man. Like he's if kids don't know him, they should, you know, like him and the Nasty Boys and some of these guys are just super, just like they're funny and they just will interact with you and do cool shit. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I shook both of their hands just because I'm an old schooler, so I just walked up. I'm like, pleasure to meet you. And I was like, can I get a picture? And they're like, yeah, it'll be $50. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm. I don't have $50 right now, but I do, but not for a selfie. You know what I mean?
That's.
I'll buy an autograph, I guess, and they had like $50 8x10s, and that's okay because that's something that you could put on the wall or whatever, and but I'm not paying anyone for a selfie. I'm sorry, it's not happening. Including Adam Cole. Adam Cole, I went up, met him, and we talked for a while, and at the end, I'm like, "Can I get a selfie?" He's like, "Sure." I'm like, "Great," because if you would have said $50, I would have walked away.
Yeah, and. He's the one that could charge that right now if he wanted to.
Right. Yeah, he's on top of the world. So, okay. Before we wrap this up, we're almost at we're at an hour. Okay. Who do you want to be the interim champion to face Punk when he gets back?
Aside from Danhausen. So we'll get that out of the way. Love that Danhausen. I was there for his debut. I was so excited. He debuted.
Look. I don't like. Okay, how can I phrase this in the right way? I wish him well. I hope he does really well in AEW. I never want to see him with a belt. Never.
That's the thing. He doesn't need a belt. No. I'm laughing. I genuinely love Danhausen. I became a fan during the pandemic. Watching his stuff online. And I became a massive fan of his without ever seeing him wrestle, except for like old highlights and stuff. He's not bad in the ring. He's brilliant. I love that he's made his character and now he's on this grand stage. He never needs a belt to be relevant. I think the way they're booking him, it'd be a little unbelievable for him to carry a belt right now, get knocked out by Tony Nese in like 10 seconds, which kind of sucked. But I love Danhausen. He's freaking hilarious. He could go do a TV show. Doesn't even have to be wrestling. I don't care what he does. I'm in. Yeah. That being said, no, he's not a champion. He's not a champion. I think that all the rumors that I'm hearing is that they're going to go with Mox because when he carried the title, he didn't do it in front of a live crowd, in front of a live audience, and that makes sense. Kind of reward him. But I think that's a little obvious. I would like to see kind of a wild card. And which I thought was cool that like Kyle O'Reilly was fighting in that match because not a lot of people expected him to win that. But I think it'd be kind of neat to see somebody like that's on an upper level, but maybe not somebody that we really considered for a championship at that point. So maybe it sucks right now the MJF thing because he would have been perfect. You know what I mean? This whole thing going on, he would have been perfect choice for
That's
this.
another one. He doesn't even need a belt right now. He's so over. He's so popular. Like he can ride this it feels kind of like McMahon versus Austin feud between him and Tony Khan. You know what I mean? Like they could ride that wave for a while if they wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, they really, really could.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's a really good question, So, like, I think maybe – I think Moxley was a logical choice. I don't know. What about you? I hadn't really thought about it because I just – from the get-go, I was like, oh, it's going to be Moxley. It's going to be Moxley. So, I never thought for a second to be him by anybody else.
For me, I would choose Bryan Danielson, but he's not in the tournament or whatever it is.
He's hurt, isn't he?
He's a little hurt. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks, though. I think he'll be back soon.
Yeah.
But like, he's one that deserves that belt.
He does.
Honestly, man, that's the problem with AEW is that they don't really have. They have a lot of talent, but they don't really have a lot of people that right out the gate. Like Hangman became a great champion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Hangman won me over with his matches and defending the championship and these crazy death matches and whatnot. But when they gave him the belt, I was like, really? That guy? Like immediately, it wasn't like an immediate star power thing. And they don't really have that. It's more of like, put it on someone, let's see what they do. And hopefully they shine, You know
who Eddie Kingston. I would like to see Eddie Kingston get it for a run. And he's not even one of my favorites. But like you're talking about the main event guys. Yeah. So it's like you got Adam Cole could be legitimate. Jericho still could be legitimate. Kenny Omega can come back. You got Danielson. You got Moxley. And like Hangman and CM Punk and MJF. That's it, really, for like the top of the mountain, right? So Eddie Kingston, I think. I'm going as we're talking. I'm going down the list. He'd be somebody that I think short run with a strap. I think it'd be cool and a little unexpected. I think Moxley's predictable.
Yeah, Moxley's predictable. But I don't – from the looks of the tournament, it's looking like it's going to be Moxley versus Tanahashi. Tanahashi still has to fight Hiroki Goto, but let's be real. It's going to be Tanahashi. And it's going to be Tanahashi versus Mox because they have a history already over the United States title in Japan. Mm-hmm. So and between Mox and Tanahashi, it's going to be Mox. Tanahashi's not going to move to the States to defend that belt in AEW. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's a little predictable. It's going to be Mox, but I would have liked to seen Bryan Danielson. The other name that you mentioned Eddie Kingston, and here's a little inside baseball because I'm pretty sure no one that is in AEW's higher ups are going to see this. But when I was backstage, he's the locker room leader. He was the one running around yelling at everyone about bus times. Like I didn't even get a chance to like have a one-on-one with him, but I saw him constantly going back. Guys, the bus is taking off. What? You fucking idiots! Let's go! Like just let's go! And like yelling at the not just the wrestlers, but also like the drivers and like getting everybody going. Like come on, we're 5 minutes behind. I'm like, oh my god! So he's kind of like the dude back there, kind of telling people how to do shit.
That's cool.
Yeah,
it is interesting.
You wouldn't expect it from Eddie. You would expect Eddie to just show up and take care of his own business and not give a fuck. But it's cool to see. It was cool to see.
Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, it was awesome talking to you. I feel like we could talk for hours more about wrestling and bore everybody that's watching. But we'll definitely
just dwindling.
Yeah, right. It's like it started off real good, and then they started talking about wrestling again. But yeah, dude, thank you so much for your time. Tell everyone where they can pick up your book.
Absolutely. So you can go to strussellproductions.com. And you can buy the book there. I also have a cocktail and music club where the book is a part of that with curated cocktail videos, playlists, T-shirts, bunch of fun stuff in there. So strussellproductions.com, all the goings on in my world right there.
Awesome. And if anybody wants to follow you and your personal adventures on social media.
Yeah, it's at Jesse Hubbard Cocktails on Instagram.
Cool. So please follow Jesse. Please pick up that book. It's really awesome. Even if you don't drink alcohol, follow the recipe and don't add alcohol. You know what I mean? Get yourself an interesting drink for a party with your friends that don't drink. Yeah, it doesn't all need to be alcohol. Like that's one little stigma that I have that a lot of people I have found problems with people where if I come around, they're like, oh no, I can't hang out with Eddie. I'm going to get wasted. And it's like, guys, it's not that. We can hang out and not drink. But dude, thank you so much. Here's an idea, by the way. I just popped in my head while you were talking. mail order boxes with the stuff you need to make a cocktail, and a single, and you can send those out monthly.
Love it.
A cocktail and a single, and you subscribe monthly, and every month you'll get a box with new drink and a new song or something.
That's rad. Love it, man.
Yeah, do it.
I'll cut you in if I make that happen.
Do it. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. Jesse, thank you for joining me. And yeah, stay good. Stay nice to each other. Be nice. Come on. Don't be mean. As we were talking earlier. We'll talk soon, brother.